I disgusted my food-thieving roommate. My roommate Jake thought my food was basically his personal buffet. This guy would eat everything I bought without even asking. I'd come home from work expecting to find my leftover pizza and it'd be gone. My expensive Greek yogurt, empty containers sitting in the sink like some kind of trophy. I tried talking to him about it multiple times. I even started labeling my food with my name in giant letters. Nothing worked. Jake would just shrug and say stuff like, "Oh, I was really hungry," or "I'll pay you back," but he never did. The breaking point came when I bought ingredients for my girlfriend's birthday dinner. I had spent $40 on salmon, asparagus, and this fancy dessert I was planning to make. I came home early to start cooking and everything was gone. The salmon packaging was in the trash and Jake was sitting on the couch picking his teeth. When I asked where my food went, he looked at me like I was crazy and said, "Dude, it was just sitting there for like 2 days. It had been in the fridge for 8 hours. That's when I decided to get creative with my revenge. I went to the store and bought the most disgusting ingredients I could find. Canned sardines, blue cheese that smelled like death, pickled herring, and some expired milk I found marked down in the clearance section. I also grabbed some food coloring to make everything look normal. I spent the entire next day preparing my masterpiece. I made what looked like chocolate pudding but was actually sardines blended with the expired milk and brown food coloring. I created fake turkey slices using the pickled herring and more food coloring. I even made a sandwich spread that looked like peanut butter but was mostly blue cheese mixed with sardine juice. I packaged everything in normal containers and put my name on them in small letters like I usually did. Then I waited. The next morning I pretended to leave for work but actually just sat in my car around the corner. After about 20 minutes I snuck back to listen outside our apartment door. I heard Jake rummaging around in the kitchen like always. Then silence. Then the most horrible gagging sounds I've ever heard in my life. I walked back in just as Jake was hunched over the sink making these awful choking noises. His face was completely green and there were tears streaming down his cheeks. The fake chocolate pudding was splattered all over the counter. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying not to laugh. Jake couldn't even talk. He just kept pointing at the container and making these disgusted gurgling sounds. He ran to the bathroom and I could hear him throwing up for like 10 minutes straight. When he finally came out, he looked like he'd seen a ghost. His face was still pale green and he was shaking. "What the hell was in that pudding?" he gasped. I shrugged and said, "Just some ingredients I picked up." "Why, did you try some?" He stared at me for a long second, and I could see the exact moment he realized what had happened. His expression went from confused to horrified to absolutely furious. "You made that disgusting on purpose," he said. "I made my food how I like it," I replied. "If you don't want to eat gross food, maybe don't eat food that isn't yours." Jake was so mad he couldn't even form words. He just stomped off to his room and slammed the door. The best part was that he was so traumatized by the experience that he never touched my food again. In fact, he barely ate anything for the next 3 days because he kept saying everything smelled like sardines to him. A week later, he moved out without even giving proper notice. He left a note saying he was going to live with his cousin and that I was psychotic for poisoning him. I never told him that all the ingredients were technically edible, just really gross.